You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. And this is the thing that I think white folks have no clue about. That black folks, when you talk about the levels of stress in terms of dealing with racism, white folks don't have to walk around and then wonder if I need to record. White folks don't have to walk around and wonder if I'm just going to get snatched for doing something I wasn't involved. White folks get to live their lives totally different from black people. Here you have this sister who is traumatized by it, the young brothers who are traumatized by it, the brother who spent 2 days in jail traumatized by it, and we have these cops who still walk around on the force, and this is why black folks are fed up with this systematic breakdown of policing in this country.
And I think we're beyond fed up at this point. I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of the show with our sister because she really embodied exactly what the African American tone was for this entire situation. Not only was she there, she was also making sure that the young man was okay because honestly, he was left alone. He was left alone. He was left in a jail cell for 2 days. If it wasn't for her, that narrative from the police department would have just went viral. And I think, even when she was on the show, she spoke a lot about her passion, but more so you still saw her trembling. And so the other young lady next to her, who was an organizer for Black Lives Matter in D.C., was very instrumental in making sure that she stayed on message and on point. And I tell you why that's important, because coming on a digital show and a podcast of this magnitude, we, as in the public, just need to make sure we get all that information out so we can have these dialogues and also appreciate next steps. But again, more has to be done. More has to be done legally, more has to be done municipality, and more so federal. So what do we need to do to change? That is the conversation for the ages. But going back to why white people are comfortable, that's because we've allowed them to be comfortable. We've allowed them to gentrify our neighborhoods. We've allowed them to come in and move grandma out the house and take away the flower pot and put a bike rack. And we haven't said anything. Our voices have been silenced. But I think right now, in this day and age, hopefully the fed upness actually turns into solutions. And I think if we do it collectively instead of individually, we'll make that happen.
Jason, it was difficult to listen to her tell the story, describing all those things that happened. Again, this is the reality of black people in this country. There are hundreds of Shamir Jones across this country. And the brother in Chicago who was reciting the law to the cop. And again, we just want to live like everybody else. But the bottom line is we got to know the law. We got to record stuff. We got to always have our phones charged, all this sort of stuff, just to get on a subway.
And I think one of the things that we have to understand is because of things like this is what makes a lot of, I hate to group all white people together, but this is what makes many white people think that they can weaponize the police against black people. This is what makes them think, well, I call the police, they're my personal protectors or personal, strong arm. And, if you're selling water and I don't like it, or if you're doing something else and I don't like it, I can weaponize them against African American people. The other thing that I would say is that, it was definitely jarring to hear what the sister said. But it was also, pretty conspicuous that we had two women up here, and that women have been the people who are really fighting these fights, whether it's in Black Lives Matter or in a lot of other organizations. So, we have to give a shout out to a lot of these sisters who, unfortunately, some of them are becoming, modern day Mamie Tills.
Well, you had the two women up here, but you had the brother who was the one who was trying to intervene to talk to the cops as well.
Absolutely.
So you had both of those going. Malik?
Thank God for Shamir. You know, I live in D.C., so nothing about this video really surprised me. You know, I sometimes try to get it in on this show when we're talking about things that are happening nationally, and I mentioned the things that are happening in D.C. This is just yet another example of such. I've seen so many similar videos in D.C. The challenge is, of course, and I'm sure the young lady with Black Lives Matter would agree, is that there isn't any national support when things like this happen in D.C. We probably won't see this story anywhere else. National media probably won't cover it. You will cover it.
Well, first of all, let's be real clear. National media likely is not going to cover this story unless somebody was killed. So, I mean, let's just be real clear. You have white media executives who, if someone was shot and killed and it rose to the level of outrage, then they will cover it. They're not going to have Shamir on to tell her story, which is why this show matters. Because the thing is, this cop, Teresa, he is still patrolling. There, any supervisor watching this video, the
mayor,
anybody watching it should say, when that cop jumped in and immediately put his hands on that brother, they should say, no, your butt's off the streets. But they are still, and this is the problem we have.
I think the traditional recourse is to suspend the clock for a few days, and there's no consequences. He's back to work on desk duty. Or the other alternative is they kind of just put him in another area of working. But what really needs to happen is we need to get on where it hurts, and that's the pension. I have always been an advocate of making sure that the FOP holds their own holds their own accountable. And apparently, since they can't do it, by just taking their badge, because essentially, if that cop that we saw, he can just move to another city or another township and be back on the streets doing the same exact thing. So I say, and I think more legislators probably should get on board, is to make sure that the pension has some sort of consequences. Because when you continuously attack the people that you are supposed to protect and serve, you also put the public at a disservice. So I think, more legislation needs to happen as regards to the FOP.
All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Robert White, I think at one point you were going to have him on the show, but he had to reschedule. But Robert White, our council member, at-large council member, actually wrote a letter. And so he's calling for an actual hearing on these practices, these police practices. And it bears repeating in this case, this was a transit cop. This wasn't even police. This was a transit cop.
Well, here's the deal. If you walk around with a gun, first of all, remember, my man was killed in Bart. The story of Fruitville Station. Oscar Grant. Killed by a transit cop. Bottom line is, if you got a gun and a badge, you a cop. So I don't make the distinction between transit cop or metro cop. You a cop where somebody could end up dead as a result of your ridiculous actions. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, they raised a lot of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. Folks, many of you missed it, but now is a chance for you to participate in this new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better, than the last one. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill recently passed in Congress, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants, and this makes for an incredible investment opportunity. That's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is very simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Like I said, you don't want to miss out. Folks, you can go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.